Welcome to Revelation Unraveled. I'm your host, William Tapley, also known as the third eagle of the apocalypse and the co-prophet of the end times. This is part 2 in my series on the amazing prophecies at Salette, France, which Mary gave to 2 shepherd children, primarily to Melanie Calvat, way back in 1846. I pointed out in part 1 that this prophecy is apocalyptic literature. And up until now, it has not been understood, especially the chronology. That's because Mary divided up this prophecy into 7 separate sections. Each one is sort of a mini revelation, beginning with a year back in the 19th century and ending with an end times event, such as Armageddon. Now, the first section began in 1858 and ended with Mary talking about the reign of the Antichrist, the Great Tribulation, and Armageddon. So as I said, Mary begins the first section from the year 1858 and continues up through Armageddon. And now, to begin the second section, she chronologically goes back to the 19th century, specifically to the year 1859. And I call this second section the false prophet. And Mary says, "May the vicar of my son, Pope Pius IX, never leave Rome again after 1859. So the year that begins this section is 1 year later. And what she is talking about here is the takeover of most of the papal states by the Italian government. And Mary is advising the Pope not to leave Rome and not to fight with armies against this takeover. As she says, "May he, however, be steadfast and noble. May he fight with the weapons of faith and love. I will be at his side." And Mary continues by warning the Pope about another problem he will have with the Emperor of France. May he be on his guard against Napoleon. Now, this is Napoleon III. He is two-faced, and when he wishes to make himself Pope as well as Emperor, God will soon draw back from him. He is the eagle, who, always wanting to ascend further, will fall on the sword he wished to use to force his people to be raised up. And now Mary warns Italy what will happen because the government took over the papal states. Italy will be punished for her ambition in wanting to shake off the yoke of the Lord of Lords. She will be left to fight a war. Blood will flow on all sides. Churches will be locked up or desecrated. Priests and religious orders will be hunted down and made to die a cruel death. Several will abandon the faith, and a great number of priests and members of religious orders will break away from the true religion. Among these people there will even be bishops. Now, this passage, I believe, is a continuum beginning with the year 1870, and the persecution of the church will continue through to the end times. Mary is also prophesying what we find in Revelation 11:2, and that is that the Catholic Church will be trodden under by the Gentiles. And in this very next passage, Mary talks about the Antichrist and the false prophet. May the Pope guard against the performers of miracles. Now, this has not yet occurred, and the performers of miracles will be the false prophet and the Antichrist. For the time has come when the most astonishing wonders will take place on the earth and in the air. Now, this correlates exactly with Revelation 13:13. And he did great signs so that he made even fire to come down from heaven and upon earth. What is really interesting about this particular section is that there is a good pope who is taking on the false prophet who will be leading the Catholic Church. This true pope will undoubtedly be in exile. And this verifies what Malachi says. He calls the last pope Peter the Roman. I know this goes contrary to people like Irvin Baxter, who claim that the last pope will be an evil pope. But it's possible that God does not completely abandon mankind, even after Enoch and Elijah have been assassinated. Because we see here that there is one last pope who is fighting for the faith. So now let's go on to the third section of the amazing prophecies at La Salette. And once again, Mary goes chronologically back to the 19th century. In this case, the year is 1864. And I call this section Zombies and Alien Abductions, which I will get to in a minute. In the year 1864, Lucifer, together with a large number of demons, will be unloosed from hell. They will put an end to faith little by little, even in those dedicated to God. They will blind them in such a way that unless they are blessed with a special grace, these people will take on the spirit of these angels of hell. Several religious institutions will lose all faith and will lose many souls. Now, in doing my research for this program, I read about quite a few occurrences in the year 1864 that could fit this pattern. One of the most interesting occurred in the United States, and you'll notice that in this passage, Italy or France is not referred to. And what happened in the United States was General Sherman marched through Georgia to the sea. This was the beginning of civilians being targeted in war. And this has advanced to our century, in which civilians are the primary target of terrorism. And just past week, for example, there was that Catholic church bombed in Nigeria. Now, such a target has no military value whatsoever. But we can see that evil has taken over war completely. There's no such thing as a just war. Satan is destroying what he hates the most, and that is Christianity. Evil books will be abundant on earth, and the spirits of darkness will spread everywhere, a universal slackening in all that concerns the service of God. They will have great power over nature. And now get this next sentence. There will be churches built to serve these spirits. Obviously, we are well beyond 1864 at this stage of the prophecy. Can anyone think about churches which serve the spirits of darkness? How about the Church of Scientology? Have you ever read some of their crazy beliefs? They believe in aliens and spaceships. Let me assure you now, aliens are demons. And the Church of Scientology serves these demons. And now Mary brings us right up to the 21st century. People will be transported from one place to another by these evil spirits. And I am certain Mary is prophesying here about UFOs. Believe me, UFOs are not from some distant planet. UFOs are demons, and they can transport human beings from one place to another. And Mary continues, even priests, for they will not have been guided by the good spirit of the gospel, which is the spirit of humility, charity, and zeal for the glory of God. And now Mary gives us the most amazing prophecy at La Salette. On occasions, the dead and the righteous will be brought back to life. Here Mary is talking about zombies. Of course, when Hollywood makes movies about religious subjects such as exorcisms or zombies, they tend to exaggerate. They tend to use a lot of special effects. But these things are real. And when Mary gave these prophecies at La Salette, this created a sensation at the time, as you can imagine. Now, when Melanie transcribed this prophecy from Mary, she did it word for word. She remembered everything that Mary told her. But later on, in fact, this was in 1899, Melanie was asked many, many times to explain what Mary meant by this resurrected dead, or in other words, zombies. And she wrote to a priest, and here's what Melanie said. That is to say that these dead will take the form of righteous souls which lived on earth in order to lead men further astray. These so-called resurrected dead, that would be zombies, who will be nothing but the devil in this form, will preach another gospel, contrary to the true Christ Jesus. denying the existence of heaven. All these souls will appear as if affixed to their bodies. Quite a few years ago, I read an amazing account of a man who was in the New Age movement, and maybe someone can remind me of the title because I've forgotten, and I would love to read this account again. In any event, he went to a coven of witches. Of course, there were 13 people there. And before it was over, he came to realize that at least 5 of the people were not actually alive. They were, in fact, zombies. So I hope someone can refresh my memory on that. Now, on my next program, I am planning, at least at this point in time, to take a break on the La Salette series. And I hope to do a program on an amazing crop circle, which I just recently discovered, which proves that they also are demonically inspired. And now, as always, if you would like a free copy of my book, Revelation Unraveled, you can write to the address you see on your screen or send a message to my YouTube account.